In this video, we're going to learn how to make this 3D printable post-it note organizer inside Fusion 360. This is a fun, neat little project and functional design, especially if you want to organize your post-it notes on your desk. So with that said, let's jump right into it and get started. Now, before we get started, the first thing we need to do is get the measurements for our post-it notes. These measure around 3 by 3, so I'm going to be using those measurements as a point of reference when it comes to designing. Now, with our reference in hand, we can go ahead and jump right into it and get started. Okay, so to get started with this design, the first thing we want to do here is to click on Create, New Components, and let's go ahead and name this component to Post-it Notes Organizer. From here, press OK. Now what we want to do here is to create two subcomponents. The first one is going to be the tray that actually holds in the post-it notes, and the second one is going to be the stencil icon or the stencil print that we'll be using, so that way we can actually stencil into our post-it notes. From here, click on Create once again, New Components, and let's go ahead and name this to Tray, toggling on the top level components, Create, New Components, and let's name this to Stencil. Press OK. Let's start with the tray since this will be the easiest thing to design. From here, let's click on Create Sketch, select the bottom plane, and what we want to do here is to create a center rectangle. Click on Create, Rectangle, then Center Rectangle. From the origin, we're going to want to drag this out. Now, if we know 3 inches is around 76 millimeters, we're going to go ahead and set the values here to 76 by 76. Press OK. Now with that complete, what we need to do is to create an offset, more specifically the offset or the sides of our wall for our tray. Now, the reason for this is because this technically, although we could actually use this as a reference when it comes to designing the tray, this is actually a reference for our sticky notes, and we need to create some sort of gap or clearance so that way this can actually fit into our tray. To do that, we're going to press O on our keyboard, select the edge here, drag this out, and then I'm going to drag this out to, let's just say, negative 0.8 millimeters. Press OK. From here, pressing O once again, selecting the edge, dragging this out. I'm going to set this value to, let's just say, negative 3.2. Press OK. Now with that complete, this essentially gives us a value of, let's just say, 2.6 millimeters between these two edges here, or 2.4, excuse me. And I'm just basically showing you here what it looks like. So I'm not actually dimensioning this. I might actually set this to 4 millimeters instead, so negative 4. So that way we have a much thicker wall for our post-it note holder. From here, we're going to select all 3 profiles that we just created within Fusion, selecting the one in the center, then selecting the smallest one, and then selecting the one on the outside. Pressing E on our keyboard, we're going to go ahead and extrude this up, but let's just say 2 millimeters. Press OK. From here, we need to create the wall for our product. To do that, let's go ahead and kind of reorient around. Select the bottom profile, press E once again. Then let's go ahead and extrude this up to, let's just say, 10 millimeters. Make sure the operation here in the extrude dialog box on the right hand side is set to join and press OK. If by any chance your sketches may have turned off at any point, you can go ahead and click on the tray component on the left hand side, click on sketches, and then turn on your sketches here as shown on the menu. With that done, let's go ahead and finish this up, create a sketch, then selecting the front face here. What we want to do is to create the cutout so that way we have a place for our stencil to fit in. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead and create a 2-point rectangle. From the very edge, you can see our cursor tends to snap on to the edge of this design, selecting the top all the way across and just leaving it anywhere. It doesn't really matter. We're going to go ahead and set some dimensions for this. Pressing D on our keyboard, I'm going to set the value here to, let's just say, 6 millimeters. Repeating the process for the other side, what I can also do here is instead of typing in 6, I can go ahead and actually select the value here, which basically references value here on the right hand side as D9. So, meaning that if I were to ever change this to, let's just say, 10 millimeters, this will also reflect 10 millimeters as well. Now, the height of this doesn't really matter, but I'm going to set this to, let's just say, 8 millimeters. Try once again. And then from here, we can press E on our keyboard, select this profile, set the extent type to toObject, then set in the back side of this design, and press OK. Now, if we turn off Sketch 1 and Sketch 2, you should see we have the basic tray for our design as shown within Fusion 360. The next thing we need to do here is to create the stencil for our product. To do that, let's click on the stencil component on the left-hand side. Then we can go ahead and select this top face here. Once you've selected that top face, you can press O on your keyboard, which will change us into the sketch environment. From here, I'm going to create a small offset, and I'm going to offset this, let's just say about negative 0.24 millimeters. So that way this gives us a little bit of clearance for us to actually fit in our stencil product. Now with that designed, we can go ahead and select that profile, press E, and let's just drag this up by, let's just say 1.6 millimeters. That's okay. Make sure the operation was set to new body, and make sure you're working within the stencil component as shown on the left-hand side. With that completed, let's go ahead and select this profile or this face here. Press E. Let's just drag this out just a little bit further. Then we can go ahead and add a fillet by pressing F on our keyboard, selecting each edge here, and just kind of dragging this in. Press enter. Now, it doesn't really matter how much. This is just purely just as a design aspect, but I guess it gives it more of a kind of like a final polished look. So that way our fingers can actually kind of grab onto something and actually pull this thing out. The next thing we need to do here is to create the outline for our stencil. So we can turn off the tray, then create a sketch, and then select the top face here. Now what we want to do here is to create two rectangles. The first rectangle is going to be a center rectangle. Let's go ahead and drag it out from the left-hand side. I'm going to set this to, let's just say 10 millimeters by 10. Press OK. Now creating one more, setting this to 2-point rectangle instead, dragging this out all the way to the right. And now we can zoom right in. From here, you should have a total of 2 rectangles, one from the center and then one 2-point rectangle. I'm going to set the value here from left to right for the first rectangle, set that to 6. Then selecting the top edge and this rectangle here, or this side here, that's going to be 6 as well. The next thing I want to do here is make sure that this line here, or this rectangle we have on the right-hand side, is kind of parallel, or more specifically in the middle of this kind of thing here, right? If that makes sense. So to do that, we can actually press L on our keyboard, select the middle of our square, find the midpoint of our design here. Then using the parallel constraints feature within Fusion 360, we can go ahead and select this line and then this edge. And now our rectangle here is fully parallel or in the center of our rectangle here. Let's go ahead and set up some dimensions for this by pressing D once again, selecting both edges here. I'm going to set this to 6. And I'm going to set the height of this to, let's just say 7. Now with that complete, do one more, setting that to 6 as well. And now with that completed, I can go ahead and select the profiles, press E, and then set the operation or the direction, or excuse me, the extent type to to object. Let's go ahead and rotate this around underneath, select the bottom face, then press OK. Now we can go ahead and turn off our sketches as we will no longer need it. And then reorient this back up. From here, we can press S, type in pattern on path. Now, this feature allows us to basically duplicate features we've added within Fusion. So for example, if I have this feature shown in my timeline, which is basically the cutout of these 2 rectangles, I'm going to select the object type to 2 features. Then selecting the objects, which is the last feature that I added within Fusion. Then selecting the path. The path is basically just a line going down on the left edge. I'm going to go ahead and drag this down and add as many sort of points as I want. It doesn't really matter. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to set the distance here to 66 and increase the quantity to, let's just say 5. Once that's done, press OK. Now you have your basic outline fully designed within Fusion. You can go ahead and turn on the top level components, turn on your tray, and now you have a basic design ready to be 3D printed. Let's go ahead and add some color to this by pressing A on our keyboard. I'm gonna go ahead and set the bottom to, let's just say gray, or maybe a marble color. That looks pretty cool. And maybe the top, let's see what colors we have here. maybe something fancy like aluminum, even though we probably wouldn't do it in aluminum. But otherwise, I think this came out pretty good. So go ahead and export this to your slicer by clicking on bodies, right click on body 1, save as mesh, then export this to your slicer with the dialog box here. So with that said, that pretty much wraps up today's video. We pretty much covered everything you need to know when it comes to creating your own custom post-it note organizer for your desk. If you guys want to get access to more tutorials, guides, and resources, and even learn how to create your own functional and articulated designs for 3D printing, make sure to check out the 14-day design challenge with the link in the description. In this community, we break down everything you need to know when it comes to creating your own designs, getting personalized feedback on models that you want to create, and as well as getting community support whenever you get stuck or need help. You can check out the link in the description. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.